How has all of your experience shaped your understanding of what marketing needs to succeed? And how do you balance this kind of strategic leadership?
As a marketer, you're always asked to be on a new channel, enter a new channel, do a new thing. And I'm always telling my team, like, let's nail this one before we nail another one. Because the more channels you add, the more programs you add, thinner your spread. And then that's when you start feeling like no progress is happening, nothing good is happening. And so I think that's when I like to keep the practical side with like a strategic side is like for you to accomplish a strategy, it doesn't mean doing everything. It actually means doing fewer things. And that's the part that is really hard. It's choosing the fewer things you're going to do.
What are some of the strategies that you use to foster that sense of connection internally?
Have you seen these pictures, sometimes these diagrams of like a team that you have like a leader in the center and then like a hub and spoke model. And then you have these other high performing teams where you have like people are all interconnected. So that's the teams that I built. And these are teams that are like everyone has a relationship. And I very much invest in like people being able to sort out their own issues with their peers on their own.
Hi, and welcome to Growth Talks, where we dive deep into the world of growth and marketing with industry leaders. I'm Krystina Rubino, the general manager of the offline practice at Right Side Up, and your host. Today, I'm joined by Branca Ballot, the VP of Marketing at Glide. She's been building and leading high-performance go-to-market teams for over 10 years. A mechanical engineer by background, she started her career in management consulting and private equity. She's touched every facet of marketing, from growth to paid media to community building at companies like GoDaddy and Zenefits. And she still doesn't consider herself a marketer. So non-marketer Branca, welcome to the Growth Marketing Show. And I'm so thrilled to have you.
Very happy to be here. Very excited.
Well, I've got to get into it first, and I'm going to teach you a little bit. But so you've led marketing teams for years, but you most often describe yourself as not a marketer. One, I think at some point you have to stop lying to yourself just because it's okay. We live in our truth. But seriously though, you have a really unique background in engineering and consulting and sales ops. How's it shaped your leadership style, and what advantages do you think this gives you?
Yeah. So I think it's like, because I've been the beginning of my career very much in these like project by project. That's the same approach that I bring to marketing. We're kind of like, hey, we're building the website. And even the website itself, I consider it like project after project after project, and then coupled with some testing along the way, right? And then every time we want to enter a new channel or do any kind of new motion, right? Whether it's starting a community, starting a partner program, I always think about that as like a project that's like, okay, I'm going to put this amount of resources. This is the goal that I'm trying to achieve. What are going to be my key metrics? And so I'm always thinking about marketing like in that area. So I really love the building of marketing, the building of different channels and your presence, but it's very much related to the build motion and the like structured approach of thinking. So I think that's how it shaped my mind and my leadership style.
It's not often that you hear leaders talk about, I don't want to call it tactical, but there's something very practical about everything you just lined out. And I've talked to and worked with a lot of leaders who are absolutely brilliant, but I like to say they're up in the clouds somewhere and they're almost untethered to reality. And that kind of visionary leadership is necessary in some instances, but there's a lot of instances where it's like, guys, we have to get shit done. It's funny because I heard the engineer just come out. And are there things about having an engineering background also that make it easy to relate to other teams? So marketing is obviously like a discipline that works and touches every facet of the company. Do you find that your very practical approach kind of gets you in good with the engineers? Maybe some of the project managers love you, maybe some of the other ones. Like, what do you find about your engineering part of your background that helps you when you work cross-functionally?
I think it helps me a ton, just in terms of like the fact that I get how they build products. One of the things that I leverage from my background being so varied is I've worked in sales for a long time. So then I know what sales feels when they're working with marketing. Like I've worked a lot when I'm in my time at sales and sales operations, I worked a lot as the PM for all of our sales systems. And so I know exactly what PMs do, and I know exactly how they interface with engineering. And so it kind of like both that background and that varied experience, I think really helped me understand how other functions work. And I'm kind of like that type of personality that I'm the glue. I'm the glue in the family. I'm the glue at home. I'm the glue in like different places that I've been and also at work. And I think marketing has that ability of being the glue of the company because you have to interface with everyone. So it certainly helps. It certainly helps that like I don't code, but I know kind of like what they're doing and how. And so it does help a ton.
It sounds like it's given you a lot of empathy. And I feel like empathy first leadership is underrated. And it's funny to talk to somebody who didn't come through marketing as that traditional like individual contribution, the T-shaped marketer. What's the deepest part of your T? At this point in your career, there's going to be new channels that come out, and your experience in the back of all of your marketing experience, all the experience you bring to the table, I have to imagine, even though you haven't been a traditional individual contributor, how has all of your experience shaped your understanding of what marketing needs to succeed? And how do you balance this kind of strategic leadership with more of a hands-on understanding of like tactics?
Yeah. So I think because I'm not a traditional marketer, that I didn't grow up in marketing as individual contributor and then it became a manager, director, etc. I started straight from leading a team, right? A growth marketing team. So from the beginning of my career in marketing, I was always learning about the different disciplines. I learned about paid ads. I learned about website optimization. I learned about email marketing. I learned about community building. I learned about all these things, and it made me be very appreciative and very curious the whole time, because I actually really believe that in marketing, like you don't have like, it's very rare that you have just one channel that is working for you. I'm a very big advocate that you shouldn't have 100, but it's very rare that it's one. There's no silver bullet, right? So it's a combination of a few things. And it's like in some companies, it's the website, email marketing, and maybe support that turns things into sales. Some other companies is purely the website. Some other companies is paid media. It really depends. And so I think for me, it's like, because I'm not a marketer, I think it made me always curious about learning about all the different disciplines. And I get updates from different people on my team. And I'm like, I get excited. I am right now, my other tabs that I have open. I have HubSpot, I have Figma, I have Vercel, I have LinkedIn. Like I am knee deep, right, into a lot of things that we do, not because I'm micromanaging my team, but because I like learning. I like knowing what we're doing. I'm always giving them feedback when they ask for. We have a rule in my team that like not everything has to come through me. So I get really happy when they launch something that I haven't seen. And so I think it's like this, it's learning your balance. I think there were points in my career that maybe I was trying too much to learn or to like give too much feedback. And I think I've learned along the way, when you work with someone enough, how to stop. And I try to always remove myself as much as possible. So like I'm not too in the weeds, but in the weeds enough to know what to make, where to make bets. But the other thing that I really have is like, as a marketer, you always ask to be on a new channel, enter a new channel, do a new thing. And I'm always telling my team, like, let's nail this one before we nail another one, because the more channels you add, the more programs you add, thinner your spread. And then that's when you start feeling like no progress is happening, nothing good is happening. And so I think that's when I like to keep the practical side with like a strategic side, is like, for you to accomplish strategy, it doesn't mean doing everything. It actually means doing fewer things. And that's the part that is really hard. It's choosing the fewer things you're going to do. And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, doing some things really well. I talk so much, like one of my put a quarter in me and I'll talk about it, is diversification of marketing. And I often find myself in a position where I'm talking to marketers who are like, I am scaled on Meta, I'm somewhat scaled on Google, or vice versa, and nothing else. And I'm like, oh, that's terrifying. But then conversely, I talk to marketers and they're like, I'm launching TV next month. And then 2 months after that, I'm going to do this. And then 3 months ago, we just launched an affiliate pilot. And I'm just like, does your organization staff marketing differently than every other one that I've worked with? Because as far as I know, you can't be everything everywhere all at once, right? We all work at, I don't even think any companies really exist anymore where it's just like unlimited marketing budgets, unlimited team, unlimited anything. Everybody has finite resources to work with. And the way that you've approached staffing your team at Glide, I'm really intrigued by, where you've got basically this pretty lean, but very versatile team with almost like a one of each to cover the full spectrum of marketing. So like, talk to me about that. And how do you prioritize resources and ensure that every role then aligns with the team's broader goals? And how did you arrive at like this kind of one of each structure? Like, walk me through it a little.
Yeah. So I think the first thing was like when I got in, the first thing that I do in pretty much every job that I've had in the past few years is just I did a customer segmentation. So to really like understand what were the different segments. And then the first thing is aligned with the CEO and the leadership team. I was like, who do we want to target? And then what does that mean if we want to target that? And then based on that, it was like, okay, if these are the people that we want to target, what are the programs and the motions that I want to put behind it? And then with that, then it became like, okay, then who are the right people to have on the team? And I think that's what I would suggest to everyone coming into, every marketing leader coming to a new job, or even when they're at a crossroads that like you feel like your strategy hasn't been working either as a company or your marketing strategy, or it's not working. Oftentimes it's because like, you're doing the wrong thing or something that is not aligned to your ultimate goal, but you keep doing it just because. And then it's like, oh, we've always done this. So you keep doing it. And so I think like these fresh starts when you're joining a company are super helpful helpful because it allows you to just see the thing with like fresh eyes, right? And so then based on that, I then saw what I had. I actually had, there were a few people already on the team doing marketing, and it was incredible how much they were doing. But I had a very young marketer, super talented, but like he was doing marketing operations, email marketing, social media, product launches, like all of it. And I was like, oh, that's clearly not scalable, right? Like, how are we going to do this? And so I started really thinking about, okay. And the interesting thing is I asked people on the team, I said, what do we need? We had at the time a designer, a video producer, this guy, and a developer. And they were all like, we need a copywriter. And then I looked around and I was like, no, we don't need a copywriter. I love copywriters. Copywriters are amazing, but that's not what we need. We need a product marketer to understand what we're our product, who we're targeting, what we're for, what's our messaging. That's what we need first. And then the second thing is like, okay, now we need a growth marketer to think about how we put these things in place. And we also need a content marketer. And so it was really thinking about what were the core things that we need and getting super aligned with my CEO early on like what was my hiring plan, right? I think I would not suggest any new marketing leader to go and be like to your CEO, like, I need to hire 10 people. Like just get a gut check of like, hey, it's in the park of 3, 1, 2, 5, 10. And then you figure out, because there are many different types of marketers. There are some marketers that are a great combination of product marketing and growth marketing. Boom, you hire one, you get a little bit of both. Some marketers are great product marketers and content marketers. Boom, you hire one, you get both. So it really depends on how much money you have. And then to hire people. And then based on that, then you figure out the team that you need. And so my team, we have one of each because our product caters to many different audiences. And we have a very strong self-serve. We have a fairly technical product for non-technical people, but we still need to give them education, etc. So for example, education is a really big pillar of what we do. We also have a super strong community of people that love us and they give feedback and all that. So I need to have someone to manage that because community is not community if it's not like a two-way conversation, right? You can't let your community talking without you. We knew from the very beginning that a partner program was going to be critical for our growth. So I have someone focused on that. The same way I have content marketing, product marketing, growth marketing, designer, developer. So that's what I mean when I have one of each. I really have one of each, but it's kind of like really exciting to have that.
Something you said earlier when you were talking about just like kind of almost like writing something into diminishing returns or even just kind of staffing unintentionally and being like, well, we've always done it this way, so we need to keep going at it in this way. It's like at a certain point, you have to recognize sunk cost fallacy and say, okay, I'm not going to throw good money after bad. I'm not going to go throw talented people after this kind of crazy lark in a corner. And it might involve some hard discussions and it might involve changing things around a little bit. But if you're really intentional about what you're planning on doing and you set clear goals, I would imagine that you're working backwards from that and resourcing the things that you need in order to meet those goals. It's funny because I always like to think about how that changes at different stages in a business. And you've been at larger organizations, you've been at startups, you've been at probably some large organizations that behave like startups and vice versa. So like from GoDaddy to Zenefits to Glide now, how do you adapt your playbook when you're moving between larger organizations and startups? Like what strategies have you had to leave behind and what's emerged for you as like, oh, this is a new strategy that I wouldn't have employed when I was either at a startup or a larger organization, but I'm going to use it now.
Let's talk a little bit about the let me talk about the commonalities first, and then I'll talk about the differences. So I think that the thing that I've carried through all these from the very beginning of my career has always been like everything was very urgent. And this is kind of like I chose that career because that's my personality, right? I love Formula One. I love speed. It's always been my thing, right? I love to be the first to finish every test at school. It's something that I do.
Wait, I was one of those too.
Yeah, it's like that's what I do. I'm always the first one, right?
Yeah, we gotta go.
Yeah, and even if I get it wrong, it's fine. I'm done.
Yeah, whatever. We moved on. It's fine.
And so this is who I am. So that's very important. So throughout my entire career, big or small company, it was always like the speed, right? And I carry that through regardless. So I'll give an example. I'm not going to say the company, but one of the large companies that I worked at, the first week I started, I was like, I want to talk to customers. And someone from the customer marketing team told me it takes 3 months. And I said, no, we have to talk to legal. They have to approve the marketing message. Then we have to go and email them to see if they have this. Then there's an email queue that you have to go for a month, etc. You got the point. So it's like, I'm like, no, no. And then I found a platform that you could just filter for people that are using this. They're subscribed to that platform and you could just pay people $50 to have a conversation. And a week, I had a ton of conversations, right? So it's kind of like not accepting that if you are in a bigger organization, like by default, you're going to have to move slower. I think that this is just like, I disagree with that. It's like, yes, if you're kind of like in the middle of the pack and you kind of like are not given enough things, yes, it's probably going to move lower, but if you're coming in a leadership position, you do not have to accept that. That's not the truth. And I actually don't think that these larger companies hire leaders to move slow.
Not from growth marketing, not if they're hiring out of a startup. They're looking for you to bring some of that energy and ethos with you.
Exactly. So I'm like, no, I don't believe that. And so I'm very fortunate that the places that I've been, even though, yes, they had their operating systems and their meetings and their setups, but like they were looking to move fast. So that's great. But in now talking about different things is I always think it's like about adjusting your expectations to the resources you have. And so what I'm very grateful to have had the experience in some of these larger companies and have seen how they do this is, for example, GoDaddy has an amazing website from a optimization perspective, like from an SEO perspective, optimization perspective, from how they build a website, the scalability. It's just incredible, right? Because they're serving multiple countries, multiple products, like it's a machine. And I take a lot of those learnings and building blocks into how we build our website at Glide. And at Glide, I have one designer, one developer, one product marketer. They don't only work on the website. And when people come to my website, they're like, it looks like you have 20 people working on it. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's just because how we build in the process that we use. And so I've learned from a bigger company, but then I adjust my expectations to the team that I have. And then I set that pace. And so I honestly think that there's so much learning from bigger to small into big. It's just a matter of like appreciation, you know? It's like I always choose to see like what am I learning from a situation versus like, that's not what I want. I'm like, if that's not what I want, I shouldn't be here.
I love that. I also, as you were talking, you made me think about I'm not the most patient person. And there's probably like friends or family or whatever, not that many of them listen to this, but like they'd be like, that's the understatement of the century, Krystina. I can be patient for things that I need to be disciplined and patient about. But when it's like, we gotta go, we gotta do something, we have to achieve something, we gotta get there, we have a limited amount of time. LFG, let's go. Then the New Yorker comes out and I'm crazy. But like, we're gonna do it. And I think there's just momentum. People also get excited by momentum.
Yeah.
Nobody comes to work wants to not accomplish anything that day or that week or that month or that year. I think people don't want to sit in a state of inertia. So I think that if you balance being patient on the right things, right? Like if you're impatient with results, you're going to cut a test early. Done, right? But if you're impatient with movement and inputs for that test, you're probably going to get it to market faster. You're probably going to uncover some sort of other optimization or business need or whatever have you that's going to help you be more successful in that. When you touched on just thinking about talking to your customers, I'm still that example is amazing, by the way.
It's incredible. It's a true story, by the way. It was.
Of course it is. But what has me laughing about that is that's the kind of thing where it's like impatience led to, I'm going to get it done and I'm going to figure out a way to operate outside of the box, right? A little bit, but I'm not going to do anything that breaks the box. I love that you go into every gig and you're like, okay, customer first, customer centric. When you think about building that sense of community and just how much you've already talked about community and customers, I know it's a priority for you. What are some of the strategies that you use to foster that sense of connection internally? And how does that translate into your customer interactions and your brand loyalty?
You mean internally and my team?
Yeah, internally on your team and then externally, like you could just tell that it's important to you.
It is. And I think that like the one thing that I'm extremely proud is like my team is like this. You know, it's kind of like very tight and they're very different. I have an extroverted guy from Mississippi. I have like a shy person from this other place. And then I have like, we have all sorts of types of personality, background, everything. But like the thing that we built is just like, we know we all need each other and we not all work together at the same time all the time. But it's like the partner guy works with the video team and the video team works with the product market and the product marketer works with the designer works, like, have you seen these pictures, sometimes these diagrams of like a team that you have like a leader in the center and then like a hub and spoke model, but then you have these other high performing teams where you have like people are all interconnected. So that's the teams that I built. And these are teams that are like everyone has a relationship. And I very much invest on like people being able to sort out their own issues with their peers on their own. Like if they ever need my help, I will go, but like I really coach people. And trust me, us being like this does not mean that we don't have conflict. We do, but we resolve that and we don't let it faster. And so I think that's a super important thing because we see this. And for example, when we send email marketing, so for example, our product marketer send emails with his picture on it. And then our growth marketer sends the monthly newsletter. And the partner program guy, he sends the partner program newsletter. And these personalities, they transcend to the community, right? So we have a community forum with tens of thousands of members, and people know people on my team, right? And people know me, and they think we're people because we are, right? And so I think that like people wanna, even though like, you know, when people come to our website, they think we're like a massive company, which I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Here, yeah, let me get that dirt off your shoulder for you.
I'm like, that's kind of cool. But then they know the people. They're like, oh, I know the VP of marketing. I know the growth marketer. I know this guy. It creates even more affinity with us, right? Obviously, we're not Duolingo size, right? Like you don't know every person in Duolingo. You don't have to, you don't need to do that. But it's kind of like, it's fun that like at a startup, this is one of the things that you can take it with you. And it's like the fact that it's like this team, and we often get praised by how people know so many people on our team and they love people on our team. But so I think it's like the community sense is, to your point, I think it's like you can't have a great community, a customer community, if you don't have a great team. And you can't have a great team and then just say, I don't care about my customer community. It kind of like either you care about it or you don't. And if you don't, you know, do paid marketing.
Stop. That's amazing. I'm sorry, that just sent me. I do have a question for you about paid marketing, but I love that. It's like everything that you just said comes from a deep place of authenticity. And I think there's almost this like concept, like this preconceived notion with marketers where it's like, we've got to be polished all the time and we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And I think about how little time I spend reading and proofreading emails now versus even 10 years ago in my career. And I'm so much more of an effective communicator now versus like, let me be very like careful and precious about this word choice where like, yes, be intentional with your words, but I have to imagine there's like some organic interactions that happen with your community and your team that have now fostered this like, oh, these are real people. I love that. And also like, I have to say, so paid marketing, necessary. I think necessary. However, I do love that you're like, well, then do paid. I tell people all the time, again, like I mostly work in paid marketing and media. Like that's where I've spent most of my career, besides some stints in like SEO and some content here and there. But when I think about like the things that I always tell marketers first, it's not free to have strong organic content that ranks really well and a community that's built up. It's not free, but it's certainly more cost effective than iterating and running tons of paid marketing tests. That said, there's like indicators that you look for when you decide that a company is ready to invest in paid acquisition. Like what are some of those that you look for when you decide that you're ready?
Yeah, this is a great question. By the way, I have nothing against paid marketing. I just want to be very clear. So let me give you guys a clear example. So we have this very vast audience here at Glide, right? And I've had many different types of experience with paid marketing, but I'll give you an example. So we have many different types of audiences, and paid is these days has got very expensive, people. I don't know what you guys are doing there, but the costs are not what they used to be. So anyways, like any paid test, I'm like, well, I'm going to run out of budget in like a second. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it. But at some point here at Glide, we kind of like, we're very focused on one specific audience. And it was an audience very clearly on LinkedIn. And it's like, great. And we have some good content now for this audience. We're like, hey, we can start building like a little funnel, right? We can build like an awareness funnel, a retargeting funnel, and then a conversion funnel. And we have creative and all that for all of that clear. Good, not massive audience in terms of TAM size, but like good value for us.
Yeah.
So worked with like an amazing agency doing LinkedIn, put the right creative, did some good tests. And, you know, I'm kind of like, I have a little bit of obsessive behavior, and paid is like a drug, right? It's like, you see these tests and like, all you want to do is like optimize a little more and like change the copy and then change the CTA. It's like, it's a drug, right? It's amazing. I like it.
We like to say here, one of my colleagues always says that work is his favorite video game.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It's like, it's amazing. And it gives you that thing. And I was like, wow. And we were crushing from all of the LinkedIn benchmarks. We were doing much better, like an order of magnitude better than the LinkedIn benchmarks, right? Because we had a very clear audience, very good creative. The messaging was resonating. Great. Did that for a few months, saw good increase in traffic coming to our landing page, saw some increase in signups. And then we decided to test a different motion for this audience, kept this going and decided to test a different motion. We got people from this audience to start doing short videos organically on LinkedIn. And we did 3 cohorts. We taught people how to do it. In one of our cohorts, we engaged a service that would basically do the editing for them. And the results were like 5x what we were seeing from paid, way less budget. So I cut paid. So am I saying this is going to work for everyone in every channel? No. The organic video thing is really hard to pull off, really hard to pull off. And you have to have a specific audience that is willing to be on video, that the videos are going to end up being good, and how like they're going to promote it. There's a bunch of requirements. That strategy is unlikely to work for most companies. But in this case, for us targeting the specific audience, it worked better. And so as a marketer, that's what you have to be thinking about is like, what is your next best bet for that audience? And sometimes it is paid marketing, sometimes it is not. And there's no right or wrong rule forever. You have to go and test it. You have to do it. So that's it. So for me, paid is like, you got to know very clear who you're targeting. Are you sure this audience is hanging out in this thing? You have to be very clear, like what stage of the funnel you're trying to get them. And then you have to like test your creative, and you have to have enough focus to do that. So the thing is, if you're going to do paid, just thinking that is like, oh, I'm going to slap some money, one creative, one copy, and then this is it, you're not going to get successful. You have to give the same care that you give to your community, to your website, to your blog, to paid. And so don't just get lazy and put like 10K on a channel if you're not going to look after it. I don't do that to any channel. There's nothing that I do that I just do it because I'm simply doing it. It has to be intentional, or don't do it.
It has to be intentional, or don't do it. Like, just get me a t-shirt that says that.
Yeah, I will.
Like, really, like just in marketing, in life, in anything, the next time that I'm thinking about buying the 18th sweatshirt that I don't need, like it has to be intentional, or don't do it. Because you're wasting time, money, energy. It makes so much sense to me. Okay, so we do a little fun game here. I'm going to take a break from like super worky work, but we do a fun game called the A/B test. And it's a little bit work related, a little bit funsies. I'll go between both questions. It is not scientific. Everybody likes to be like, it depends. I'm like, no, pick one. Okay. So you can have one, it depends, and I'll allow it.
Okay.
So for work related, CAC or LTV?
LTV.
Automation or personalization?
Personalization.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Ooh, okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Neither.
What? Okay, what's your favorite breakfast?
I don't like sugar.
Fair. What's your favorite breakfast?
Like avocado toast.
Oh my God, I love avocado toast. You could call me basic, but like, oh my God, a good avocado toast, like absolutely. Paid media or organic growth?
Organic growth.
Okay, I won't tell anybody. Testing everything or sticking with proven strategies?
Testing.
Everything every day, twice on Sundays. Established company or startup?
Startup.
DIY or outsourcing?
Outsourcing.
Time travel to the past or the future?
Future.
Okay. When do you want to go to and why? Now I'm just curious.
I want to go. I'm kind of excited where the world is going now with AI. And I probably I don't want to go too far in like 500 years, but I think 50 to 100 years will be fun. Also, I would see my kids and my grandchildren, kind of like living in that new world. So I'll probably stay in that thing, like 50 years.
Okay. I don't know why, but that just got me like so emotional. You answered them so quickly and definitively. Okay, one more. Big party or small gathering?
Small gathering.
Okay. Actually, speaking of AI and getting so emotional because of it, and just talking about no code, which I'm sure will get you emotional. So moving from GoDaddy to Glide, you've been an advocate for helping creators and entrepreneurs build for themselves. How do you see no code changing the landscape of app building, and what personally drew you to the space?
Yes. Okay, you're going to get emotional now. I'm going to take you on a little story. So I joined GoDaddy because I knew people in the leadership team, and they had reached out to me before, and it wasn't the right time. And then at some point they reached out to me and they said, hey, what do you like to do? And I said, I like to build. And then they said, come here and build. We have this audience of website designers and developers who are helping SMBs go online, build their online presence. And we want someone to take care of that audience. And I did that for 4 years. And it was amazing. Like at GoDaddy, it's just like a school of like how small businesses operate. What are their challenges, everything that you're doing, small to medium-sized businesses, right? And we even have some large customers. But I got super into like small business challenges and, like having a website, having systems, having people. You have so many things that you have to worry about, right? And I also fell in love with this audience of agencies, communities that are like helping these people go online or do whatever they need to do. So 2 audiences that I really like. And I remember one of my first few conversations with our CEO at GoDaddy, I was like, I am worried about the future of GoDaddy because, the world is changing. This was many years ago. Okay. So I was like, the world is changing so much. Businesses don't need necessarily to have a website anymore. They can have a Google Maps presence. presence, and they can have a presence on Yelp, and they can have an Instagram page. And like, what is the future of websites, right? And so we started talking about like there will be less of a dependency on websites and more on like a bigger presence. And so that has always been super interesting to me, how small businesses operate and all the technology that they need to make it. And then what I really loved about Glide was when I started talking to our CEO, it was like, okay, how do we then give them the ability of create the software that they need without spending like tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the one thing that they need, right? Or the multiple things that they need, and just getting that from one provider. So that same way that GoDaddy allowed people to go online for the first time, Glide is allowing people to create the tools that they need to operate their business. And that empowerment, that ability, giving that ability to people is just very, very exciting to me. And so that's really why I joined Glide, is because to take that same feeling to like another facet of businesses. And so I really like that.
I love that. It's the whole like, do you teach a man to fish or do you just give them fish? Like, I can very much see why you'd be drawn to it. It's almost like there's, well, it's very timely since all I've seen on my feed for the last weeks is Wicked and the press tour around Wicked and whatever else. But it makes me think of like Wizard Behind the Curtain and the whole like good technology is indistinguishable from magic thing. There's got to be something really rewarding about making app building more accessible for non-technical users. The way that your GoDaddies of the world have made it so that anybody with reasonable writing skills who knows their way around basic computer function can build a website. How does Glide leverage AI in particular to make app building more accessible for those users that are non-technical but have it in them to create something necessary for their business? And like, are there any features that AI-powered features that you're excited about, or like future developments that you see that you're like, oh, this is going to change the game for non-technical users?
There are many different levels that we use AI. And so I'm very excited about all of them. So I'm going to geek out and talk a little bit about them. So there's usually like the AI level to help people in the app building stage, right? And you're building your app. And then there's also the one that you put AI in your app, right? So that's what we call runtime AI. So like your app has AI functionality. So let's talk a little bit about the first one. So like helping AI build. So we have been experimenting with this for a long time, but the results were not like super amazing. And it like, I don't know, you saw something and then like you couldn't really take that to the finish line. And we're experimenting more and more on like, how do we get from like your initial prompt with like some very simple questions to something that look really closer to the application that you would want to build for your business. Let's just say I want to build like a marketing spend tracker by category and then by person on the team. How do I build that in a way that is very easy for people? So that's something that we're experimenting with, and we call that the Glide Creator. There's another functionality that we have, for example, inside our builder. So Glide gives you many different components. So think about this. When you're building an application, right, whether it's desktop or mobile, you can have a container that has a button or a table that has these things, but people have very creative thoughts. They're like, well, Glide gives me these options, and we give a lot of options, but some people are like, I want to take it to the next level. We actually created one that we call like the AI custom component that you can basically chat with that interface and it creates a component for you. Our CEO actually even recreated the interface of the Apple Watch with this AI custom component. So that's really, really cool. Yeah, they're magicians here. And then the thing that I'm even more excited about is AI in the apps. And so this is something that kind of like also happened whenever the AI buzz started. We were like, we see a lot more potential here, like AI in the apps for people. And so, for example, we have a lot of people doing like data collection, then data structuring, all that kind of stuff in the field. Like imagine like someone has a phone and then they have to enter information. And so now you can have some AI thing that like based on, for example, you have your voice note. If you're a realtor, let's just take that as an example. You finish a customer visit, you talk to your phone, blah, 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 sends that recording into your app. Your app transcribes that voice note into a transcription. And then if you set it up correctly, it can basically say, what is the next follow-up based on this transcription, based on what we know from you? What is a follow-up email that I already draft directly to your customer? And you can like click a button and send that to the customer if you want to review it before. So that's what I'm really excited about is AI in the applications. And just to finalize, I'm very excited about this. You can tell. And we actually launched our first AI agent 40 days ago, and it's super exciting. So we're basically, what we started hearing from our customers is like, we're not really sure how to implement AI in our business. We're kind of like having a really hard time going past the ChatGPT situation or getting like someone to charge me an arm and a leg. So we started posting these AI, creating these AI agents. And one of them does resume screening. So imagine you have like hundreds of resumes, and this one does all the screening for you based on your job description. Another one is getting all your invoices, parsing out information, sending to different systems. So what I'm really excited about AI is like, I really think it's going to be transformational for businesses, but I think people really are lacking the right partner to help them implement AI in a way that works for them. That's what businesses are really, really missing. And what I'm hoping and working really hard is that Glide will be that partner for people because we're very excited about it.
I mean, listen, passionate, excited people do great things, period. But the way that you just talked about AI makes it humanizes it, right? And also like, just shows you the breadth of it because I really think that there's so many misconceptions around it and its importance in the marketplace. And there's so many misconceptions about like, it's going to take my job. And everything that you just detailed out to me, it's not going to take anybody's job. It's going to change your job. But the people who use it effectively are going to be hired at a greater rate than the people who don't.
I really believe that. I really believe that.
Is there anything that surprised, like, are there any perceptions about AI that you've had to navigate in the marketing that you guys are doing where you're like, oh, we're dealing with a preconceived notion about AI powered tools can do this or can't do this or should do that or whatever?
So I think what we're mainly fighting in the market, and we're trying to do our marketing in a very different way around AI. And I think ChatGPT, like OpenAI, did a really good job at like not explaining what AI is and just putting it out in the market.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that there is like props to them for doing that. And we're not doing exactly the same thing, but like people are not looking for an explanation on what AI is. They're not looking to understand deeply what it does. They're just like, what this thing can do for me and explain to me the risks and the limitations. Like no one is here. Like who is here in business? Like some of us are, we work in tech. And so we are like, we have to learn the thing to then be able to explain to people. But like,
And we're curious and we're the kids that asked why until we were blue in the face and then asked why again more. Sure.
exactly, right? But like if you're a business, you're like, I'm not interested in getting a PhD in AI.
No.
Like, can this thing help me screen resumes faster? Can this thing help me pay all these invoices that I get all the time in like 50 different email inboxes and even paper sometimes fast? That's the question that people have. And so I think that like what we are trying to do in our marketing with AI is talk to people like this is how AI can help you solve your problem, a problem you have. Not like, hey, let me lecture you on all these amazing evolutions of AI because I don't think that that's what businesses are looking for. And so that's the thing is like, I think people are tired of the big talk. They're like, okay, concrete.
What can it do for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's always, listen, if your marketing isn't answering the question of what can it do for me and why should I give a shit, you're not helping anybody. You're not serving your business. You're not serving your customer. Like you're not serving the end user. And actually like, talking a little bit more about that content kind of driven focus that you have, that your team has with so much content in the market, period. You've spoken a lot about the challenge of producing quality material and content that resonates. What strategies or tactics have proven effective in ensuring that your content not only stands out, but it connects you with your audience in what turns out to be a memorable way?
Kind of, we try to be intentional with our content pillars, and we do lots of different types of content, and we don't do the same type of content across the board. So for example, we are not slapping our blog posts on social media. Like we have a very different strategy on social for the people that are following us. And in that, we're a little more playful. We're a little bit more about the engagement. It's not just like slapping blog post after blog post so you can just like read a long thing because it doesn't work, right? Have we tested that? Yes, we have. It doesn't work. And so in our blog, we try to make our blog as this source of inspiration, information that goes beyond just our product. So we have to be very honest, a lot of debates around the level that we go, top of funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. We go deep here, we go deep there. It's a constant struggle of figuring out. And oftentimes we make bets. We say, okay, this quarter we're going to focus on one or two pillars, and this is what we're going to do. And then we go and then we see the results. And then we figure out, okay, this pillar is good. We're going to continue going, or this pillar not as good. And then we're going to stop. And so it's going to sound boring, but it's all about that intentionality. It's that intentionality of the content and just, we're not going for volume. There are some places, yes, that we are going for volume. We do some programmatic SEO plays, but they're not what we put on our blog. And so I think it's thinking about content and different strategies for different phases of your funnel. And so I cannot produce 5,000 blog posts a month. I can do that with programmatic SEO.
It's And even just in your own content, because chances are if you're listening to this and you found out about this episode or just Branca in general because you follow her, I always love to know why people started sharing their expertise, like even personally on LinkedIn, because there's a whole like thought leadership and personal brand. But what initially inspired you to start sharing your experience openly on LinkedIn?
Great question. And it's not a planned thing. So the way it happened, it was
I don't think it ever is. Like for what it's worth. I'm asking this also because I'm curious about it because I accidentally started doing it.
So it was a little bit over a year ago. I was backfilling a product marketing position on my team. And then I went on LinkedIn and I posted, hey guys, tomorrow I'm opening a role. And I always love to talk to specific function influencers and community leaders. So what's up these days with product marketers? And I said, like, I know Sharebird, I know PMM Alliance, etc. And that one post blew up. People are like, thank you for the mention. Oh, you should check this out. You should check this out. And then there's a guy on my team, the guy who runs social. He was like, you should do this. And so a week or two later, I wrote a post about this is my experience in hiring a product marketer. And again, it blew up. And I became known in the product marketing community. And then the social media manager like, you need to do this all the time. And I was like, and we were at the same time trying to promote people in the company to be more on LinkedIn, on social. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm the VP of marketing. I gotta like take this matter into my own hands. So I have obsessive behavior and I really like targets. So I set out a target of January. I was going to post every weekday. So January of this year, 2024.
Damn. Okay.
And I posted every weekday. And then it was insane. I think I exhausted all of my amazing content that January. I went really deep. I went into like how I build teams, how I don't build teams. It's like I was rushing it. And then what happened is people from my network from all over the place. For example, I know the CFO of Duolingo. He reached out. I know someone who's like an investor. They reached out. I know someone who's like a leader in data at Salesforce reached out. And everyone's like, oh my God, Glide is doing amazing. You're doing amazing. And I was like, are we? How do you know? Like, they're like, your posts, they're so amazing. I'm like, my posts don't talk about Glide. It was really incredible. And so I did it for about 3 months. Got sick. I have 2 little kids. Got sick for 12 days and then fell off the wagon. Totally off the wagon. And then the guy was like, you gotta go back, gotta go back, gotta go back. And then in the summer, I was like, okay, September, I'm back. I don't have really like a fixed content pillar. So I write about whatever. And then I have a rule that every LinkedIn post has to be 5 minutes or less. I do not use I just open LinkedIn and I write the post. And I do not proofread it because if I proofread it, I get self-conscious and I don't click post. So oftentimes my posts have a lot of typos because I do not reread them.
Okay. So I love this so much, actually.
It's not a good strategy.
No. But okay, but hear me out. I think it is because you could spend so much time and so much energy on LinkedIn posts and you're like, I did it. I wrote the perfect thing and Do you know what winds up getting the most traction from me? The shit that I'm like, I have thoughts and feelings and I need to share them with somebody because somebody feels the same way I do. Honestly, I have to stop being so flippin' precious about it.
Yeah. So oftentimes you'll see, I don't do that very often anymore, but like sometimes, like one time I did a post that did really well and it had like a glaring typo. And I even added a comment. I was like, I'm not going to edit this. I'm like, by the way, it's supposed to say aspire.
Well, like you bring this very authentic, very relatable tone to your posts. And I try and do the same. I literally I want it to feel like you're just bullshitting with me. Like you just we just happen to pick up the phone and we're talking. How do you approach openness and vulnerability in your writing? And what impact do you think it has on your audience and the people that read you?
Yeah, I am just like, I'm an open book. Like, when we were prepping for this podcast, we're like, is anything off limits? I'm like, no, what is it? No.
What are you really going to ask me? Yeah, it's not hard hitting journalism. Like we're all looking to learn something from the show, but I'm not going to be like, haha, gotcha.
Yeah. I think even that's the reason why I don't reread the posts. I feel like if I think that it's going to hit, that tens of thousands of people, I'm going to be self-conscious and I'm not going to post it. And like, I just post it as kind of like, it's a little diary for my friends. It's going to go, it's going to do its thing. And I agree with you 100%. My posts that have done the best, I'm not tracking very well anymore, but they are the ones that I was just mad at something or I had like a very visceral reaction. And then I just went and talked about it. Like one of my best posts of all times, what I think started with something like, I didn't succeed in my first 3 months as a VP of marketing at Glide. Then it's like, everyone loved it. It's like, great. And then I had another post that did really well. It's like, I started talking, this one did really really well. I started talking to Glide when my second kid was 3 months old. I think every woman in the planet read that book. And so it's kind of like, it's real stuff of failures or challenges, things that like really lived. And I really try to not paint a picture of like, I'm superwoman, because, we don't need more of those in the world. We have enough. And so that's it. It's like, we're just all here to help each other, celebrate each other. And I do think LinkedIn, I know there are a lot of people that talk about the toxic positivity. I'm a fan. I think that I learn a ton from LinkedIn. I connected with so many amazing people. And so I'm just paying it forward, to be honest.
That's actually a beautiful place to end this. I do agree with you. But the people that come to me with authenticity and give others the benefit of the doubt and support each other, like those are the people that I want to put in my pocket and collect and keep forever and ever. And I have to imagine that you've built your own community because you put yourself out there. I'm going to end it there, except for one question that I ask everybody at the end of every episode. And as an industry, we love a growth hack. We love growth hacking, and we hear that term all the time. But what I want to know is, what is your favorite growth non-hack? What is something that you view as so central to success and growth, growing a company, growth marketing, whatever, that you can't shortcut?
A good website. And there's no growth hack into that. Very complex.
Very complex, and it takes time, but I don't know if there's anything still more necessary to 90% of businesses than a great website. Awesome. Well, Branca, thank you so much for all the time. Thank you for your candor and your fun, and I can't wait to launch this one. I feel like I say that, but man, I really can. Thank you again. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. It's great.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Growth Talks. We hope you found our discussion insightful and fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more valuable content. And if you're excited and ready to start up-leveling your growth strategies and execution, Right Side Up has you covered. Right Side Up is a leading growth marketing agency that is partnered with over 1,000 companies of all stages and sizes to help them meet and exceed their growth goals. With expertise across all growth marketing functions, we can help you evaluate product market fit, develop customer acquisition strategies, navigate executional challenges and staffing gaps, and make pivotal decisions with confidence. And whether you need one individual or a custom-built, full-service team, we'll find you the right A+ talent. Visit us at rightsideup.com to see how we can help you and your company grow.